stop for the rest of this year. So thank you, Greg, for that. And maybe it'll be on the calendar again next year when the church year starts. We'll see. Speaking of the calendar, there's a lot going on right now with some extra groups, transitions ministry, budget meetings, end of the year stuff happening, and people using our Zoom rooms for that, which is great. That's what they're there for. Please, please, please tell Jeannie or I when your meeting is and what Zoom room you're using so that we can put it on the calendar so that we're not double booking a Zoom room. So leaders that are doing that, please let us know. Other things to keep in mind for the calendar, next Sunday is the annual meeting. We ask that as many members as there are could be here in person to vote on accepting the budget and vote on a new roster of candidates. Yep.
So for those of us who will be out of town, can we attend on Zoom and still count the quorum?
Yeah, I'm looking at David, who usually knows these things.
That would be up to the board to determine.
Did we do that last year? We've done it in the past. Yeah, you can attend online. If you're watching the service, it'll be Children's, Youth, and Family Service. We'll take like a 10-minute break. We'll have coffee and treats up here, and then it'll start 10 minutes after that. But you can be online. Just make sure if you are on the Zoom room, maybe make sure that your actual name is there instead of just iPad number 76, so that we oh yes, that's a member. So yeah, if you're out of town, there's also I think a bylaw change that's some different wording that needs to be voted on. So members, please stay for that important business. You guys are all in charge of everything. That's how Unitarian Universalism works, so this is your chance to participate in that. I also want to point out that 2 weeks from today is Question Box Sunday, and also out here on the table, you'll see a red box and some blank paper. If you have questions for me about theology, about the best way to cook a steak, about, I don't know anything, please, or about Minnesota Valley, about Unitarian Universalism, write them down, and we'll do our best to get through those questions together on Question Box Sunday. Finally, I have 2 announcements for other people, so I'm going to invite Leslie to come up, and then after Leslie, Karen is going to come up.
Good morning. And we plan to be there for the annual meeting if we can get out of Newark Airport. I would just like to make you all aware of an important upcoming social action and racial justice film. On July 16th, the documentary Zurowski versus Texas from executive producers Jennifer Lawrence, Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton will be shown. The film reveals the true dire consequences of losing access to reproductive health care and the right for women to make their own decisions, and then the monumental effort it will take to win all that back. This showing is hosted by the AAUWs of Minnesota along with the YWCA, and you can remember we had 2 speakers from the YWCA last week that are working to educate citizens on the implications of these restrictive laws. All funds raised support the Women's Foundation of Minnesota Reproductive Freedom Fund. And the reason I'm mentioning it now, even though it's not until July 16th, is that tickets are already being sold. There are 2 showings at the Mann Theater Cinema in the St. Anthony neighborhood with questions and answers following. Tickets cost $20, $5 for students, and all ticket proceeds go to the Women's Foundation of Minnesota Reproductive Freedom Fund. In our last newsletter that we got from the office, down near the bottom, if you scroll, you'll see an ad for this. And on there, there'll be a QR code that you can get to, that'll explain how to get tickets, or I'm sure you can call the Mann Theater. Thanks, hope you can come to this important event.
Hello, everybody. I'm Karen Olson, and I am coordinating all the events that are going to go with Laura's farewell as she leaves us and moves to California. So her official farewell service will be June 29th. And we're working on that. And we are hoping to do a congregation picture, and that will take place on Flower Communion Sunday, which is June 1st. Okay, so those are two things that we've gotten kind of on the calendar. Here's one thing that I need everybody to participate in. So in 2017, Laura was ordained here, and we put out pieces of paper and asked people to write wishes and advice or thoughts. This is Omira's. You can see that it's a heart, and she wrote, "Thank you for being our minister," our O-U-R-R minister. And those of you who remember George Fairman said, "I'm very happy for you, a long journey. Please take care of your health. I'll be here for more years, so call on me for anything." And that was from George Fairman. So I organized this and put out the papers and gave the announcement how to do it, took all this home and lost it. Somewhere in the house where we have 50 years of stuff. Luckily though, I found it, and I found lots more of this same kind of paper. So there will be 3 different spots in the building where it says, you'll see a sign like this, "Farewell wishes as we say goodbye. Please write well wishes, memories, or advice to Laura as we bid her farewell." You will find more of this paper in several locations here and outside the sanctuary. Feel free to use both sides and share your space with other writers, and these will be compiled. I promise not to lose them. So this is the one thing that we can get going on right away. There will also be a collection taken for some sort of farewell gift for Laura, and Richard has kindly offered to put something on the website so that you can do it electronically, and we will start making any other kinds of cash check or whatever donations starting next week, once we get that whole process figured out. The last thing I want to say is that if anyone has any wonderful farewell traditions that they'd like to share with us, or me anyway, I'd love to hear about them. And anyone who wants to help with this whole effort is also welcome. I'd appreciate it. So that's the end of my announcement. And then I also get to read this. One great way to celebrate the blessing of women in our lives on this Mother's Day is through the generosity of our Sunday sharing partner this month, the YWCA of Minneapolis, whose mission is to eliminate racism and empower women and girls. Half of our offering this month will be shared with the Y for the wonderful work they do. Will the ushers please come forward to take the offering? Pardon? There's a basket. Yeah.
Thank you, that was beautiful. I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, that myth is more potent than history, that dreams are more powerful than facts, that hope always triumphs over experience. Those words are from Robert Fulghum. I believe all of that wholeheartedly. Our imaginations are one of the most powerful tools we have. I would say possess, but I don't know how you possess imagination. For there's nothing that can contain the endless possibilities that it offers us. You can't map it. You can't hold it all in a book or even in your heart, let alone your mind, because it's always going from here to there, from there to beyond, from beyond into the unknown and back again to here and now, and then again and again and again in some kind of cosmic spiral. Imagination feeds invention, inspires the greatest music and art and poetry. It creates stories. It is often a spark of love. And also, I'm leaning into imagining us with love today. What does it mean to be who we are, a community of faith? Imagination is our soul's love song to the universe, with gratitude for countless and amazing gifts that we receive every day. And some of us might sing more loudly than others, but we all sing. I was with my favorite 2-year-old yesterday, and while she certainly spends a lot of time observing things, she spends a ton of time imagining. A spoon becomes a magic wand, a bowl becomes a hat. She is a cat, and then a goat, and then a ballerina. Remember the things you imagined as a child. Remember when towels and safety pins became capes, and we flew across the front yard. When boxes and blankets became castles and the floor was hot lava. Those were good times. At some point, though, we got older, and imagination was gradually replaced by its less exciting, but still innovative and far more practical sibling thinking. We don't get lost in our imagination as much, but we do get lost in our thoughts. The castles and capers that held our imaginations are replaced with thinking about things like, what's for dinner? How are we going to start that conversation that we want to have later with someone? We're still using our creative noggins, but we've put restraints and limitations around it. We've confined the limitless universe of possibilities down to a few things we think we might actually be able to reach. How practical, and what a shame. What a shame that we only watch people wear capes in the movies and that we don't put them on ourselves and defy gravity, not in our body or in our spirit, soaring, carefree, and unbound. We don't take the time for that too much. Now, one of the best things about being a minister is that we are invited to live in our imaginations. That quote that I read from Robert Fulghum captures that. I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, that myth is more potent than history, that dreams are more powerful than facts, and that hope always triumphs over experience. Those are certainly things that ministers hang on to. Because theology, after all, is nothing but an exercise of imagination. Theology is an attempt to answer life's unanswerable questions, however futile that may be. Now, most religions do the imagining for you. Someone or a collection of someones long ago imagined what the answers to life's great mysteries would be, and some other folks said, yeah, that sounds good, and so they kept them for themselves. And that's how religion goes. Unless you're a Unitarian Universalist. We don't answer the questions for you. What's behind life's great mysteries? Well, that's up to you. Can you imagine what it might be? Well, that's exactly what I was invited to do in seminary, and that's exactly what each of you were invited to do in your life. What's the meaning of life? What happens after you die? Why do we suffer? We don't have the answers to these mysteries written down somewhere. We don't leave it to the ancients or the church or even scientists to figure it out. Though we may draw on any one of these sources or many of them, it's up to us to figure it out. So have you done that? No. No? I mean, it's freeing and daunting and overwhelming. I mean, you have to figure the meaning of life out for yourself when you've got so many other things to do, like fix dinner, have that conversation later. It sounds a bit scary and messy. And who has that kind of time except for ministers? Sometimes rather than bothering to imagine what we might believe ourselves, we instead choose time to focus on the things that we know we don't believe. Someone might ask, what do you believe happens to you after you die? And instead of actually answering the own question using your imagination, you might say something negating a different answer. Well, I don't believe in heaven if that's what you're asking. It sounds so exclusive, I'm not into that. You may also take this approach. It doesn't really matter what I think happens after we die. It matters that we all get a choice of thinking about what happens after we die. Again, you've avoided answering the question altogether. Why are we so afraid to use our imaginations? What if we imagine something we don't like? What if we have to change our behavior because of something we imagine? What if it's just really hard to even wrap our head around? It is. But what if imagining the great mysteries brings us something? What if the process brings me into deeper relationship with the world around me? What if it's the questions and not the answers that bring value to my life? So in seminary, we had a required course called Constructive Theology. Do they still have that? Yeah. We study various theological frameworks for answering the big questions, and then we're tasked with writing our own answers, our own theology. We were to name some truths about our truths, about some lighthearted topics like, what is the purpose of life? Does God exist? If so, what is our relationship to said God? What is the nature of suffering, evil, sin? What happens to you after you die? Stuff like that. Now, up to this class, I'd been avoided. What was more important was that we all had freedom to dwell in these questions, but I hadn't really come to any conclusions about anything. Don't get me wrong, I had discussed them elaborately and contentiously in a curious manner. Just never had I laid out my own ideas and possibilities. So now here I was tasked to go ahead and do that. Our instructor had to read a lot of these papers, as you can imagine, and he always recommended that people use a metaphor because he had to read a lot of papers, and certainly that made them more interesting, and maybe it was easier. And ministers speak in metaphors anyway, so it was good practice for us. So some of my colleagues were using art and music, while others were taking the construction part literally and using a house or building as metaphors, and none of these spoke to me. Then one day I was in my kitchen getting ready to do some baking, and it came to me my theology would of course have to be constructed as a recipe. So I set out to decipher life's meaning by baking a loaf of bread. I didn't know what I would find in the process, but I was willing to use my imagination and explore this. Insert disclaimer here. Yes, I have given this sermon before, for those of you who have been around a while. We're getting some Laura's greatest hits in before I leave. But there are many of you who have only come in the last 5 years, and you've not heard this, and that's a good one. Second disclaimer, parenthetical statement, I do know that there is no knead bread, and we're not talking about that, okay? So just don't, if you want to figure out life's mysterious answers and questions through no knead bread, then you do that and come to me and we'll have a comparison talk later. But that's not in my recipe. So here we go. Bread, it starts with water. Ooh, that's a good start. Water is necessary for life. This might work, I'm thinking. We just need to go deeper. What is it that water is representing? What's its nature? Water just doesn't exist in and of itself. It permeates things. It moves. It's fluid and it flows. It carves mountains. Water's the desert. It can even wear down a stone. And even in its stagnancy, water is teeming with possibility, and it never disappears. It just changes form. It always has purpose. So in my theological recipe, I named the water Spirit of Life, because so long as there is life, there's the Spirit of life. The function of water and bread is to give life its flexibility and fluidity that it will need to grow and develop, to become an entity that is greater than the parts that it is made up of. But it all starts with that spirit, with that, whatever that spark, that will is of us to exist and keep moving. To the water, we add yeast. Yeast is a living organism that doesn't grow unless it's exposed to another organic compound. When it's in its dry format, it can be dormant for years and years and years. And then if you add water, it becomes alive and it bubbles and it oozes. So in my recipe, I called the yeast morality, because its potential is extremely impressive. Extremely impressive. It's our highest hopes, lived through our highest values. It's a catalyst for action, but only when it's in relationship with something that it finds nourishing. On its own, it doesn't do anything. It just sits over there dry in a corner. Likewise, if we don't engage our morality through relationships, it falls flat. It loses its potential and remains dormant. You can have the best and highest ideas in your head, but if you don't live them out, if you don't engage them, there's nothing there. Now, at this point, my fear of diving into these big questions is starting to ease as I'm writing my paper. I'm like, this isn't so bad. I'm making meaning and discovering some things along the way that I can hold on to, for the time being anyway. I can always change my mind later. And it was actually kind of fun and exciting, this simple staple of life that I'm using in order to find a deeper sense of knowing. Just really getting into it. But now it's time to give the bread some structure. So we add flour. And for me, this had to be the community of all living things. It's you and it's me. This is what gives our dough shape and context. We and all other living things are the structure. We are of the earth. The bread we are making cannot exist without it. The will and the potential that we've stirred together need a body, and we are that body. Whatever purpose and hope we hold can only be made real through our bodies, through our experience. And that's what flour does for bread. Now next comes salt. What does salt add or take away from what we got going on? What's its purpose? Well, salt is a balancer for the yeast. It keeps it from becoming corrupt and going rogue and the dough expanding through the whole house. Because you can't grow beyond your sustainability, so salt kind of balances it. It also adds strength to the dough to support it as it rises, which is going to happen soon. It adds flavor. Without a little bit of salt, the bread tastes flat. It's just off. It's not right. And it always brings out the best of all of the other ingredients. But you only need a tiny bit of salt. If you use too much, everything is ruined, unpalatable. So salt, I thought, is suffering. Now there's natural suffering in the world that happens because we are fragile-bodied beings and mortal creatures, and that alone is enough suffering for us to have to deal with. But we create more suffering. Evil, I don't believe, is inherent, but it's created. We create it. And when we create too much, just like putting too much salt in any recipe, you can ruin it. So salt is suffering. Now it would seem that all the ingredients are added, and there you have it, bread. But of course we aren't done because there's a whole process to making bread. The instructions are very important. First we have to knead the dough. Again, that no-knead thing, just skip over that. And even those no-knead recipes, I know they require a couple of flips and folds, so. We have to put our energy into it, our spirit into it. The glutens will not develop if we do not do this. That is where we add our love to this process. Our love-imbued kneading will help strengthen the glutens in the dough and allow it to grow twice its size and still maintain its structure. Without this action, without developing the glutens, you will have a brick that is no fun to eat. You gotta work it. You have to put your energy into it, your love into it. The process of transformation that will occur is enabled by our love. Then, we set the dough aside. You have to be patient. You have to let it grow. Time and space are integral to this process. You can't make bread or build a theology without trust and a little faith. You have to trust that what you've done so far has mattered. You have to have faith that it's going to rise. You go have a cup of tea. After you place it in a bowl, put it somewhere warm. Set aside some time. Take care of yourself. And when you come back, you're rewarded with a product that has indeed grown, hopefully. I can tell you from experience that this part of the process is very rewarding when you come back and you see it kind of mounded like this, and even before you do anything, you run your hand over it and it's soft and very pleasing, and you're proud and pleased. And then comes the next step. The next step? Punch it down. What? Punch it down? Damn it, life. Then comes the punch down. We've learned and we've grown, but guess what? Life has setbacks. That's a part of it all, right? Our dough is deflated, but we have stronger faith now. We've gotten this far, and so we shape it to our own needs, to the end product that we're going to want. And once again, we place it somewhere warm, tenderly, and give it space to rise and grow and heal from that punch. And we return later, and it's ready. So with gentle hands, we place the loaf into the fire, into the heat. It goes. And all of this life and morality, this suffering, this community, our love, all of the time and the space and the intention, all of the tenderness that we had go into that fire, back to the cosmic heat of it all, and it dies. And there it is. It dies. It's over. Wait. I had forgotten when I was writing my paper that I had to deal with death as well as life, and so here we are. There is no more growth, no more transformation. What was alive in the dough is now dead. So that's it. Does it all just end with death? Well, I take the bread into my hands, and the crust, and you're never going to see a loaf of bread the same again. I apologize, but not really. The crust of the loaf of bread has become like a coffin that holds what was alive inside of it. And I tear a piece off. And inside there are suspended holes that have developed. And those holes hold all of the flavor and all of the aroma of the bread. They are the mystery that developed in the process, and they are memory too. They hold the memory of the water that once traveled across the planet, the yeast that was wild and free, the wheat that was rooted deep in the earth, blowing in the breeze, the salty tears of our suffering, the love and the faith that we gave, they're all held here in these holes, in this mysterious space that resides between you and me, between us and all. They hold the knowing of what this life is and what it can be. And I take the piece of bread and I bring it to my mouth. Slowly, I chew it. This death, this lost life, all that potential done. All the setbacks and the healing over. But it feeds me, and it gives me life. This death gives me life. And so, it's death that feeds life, and life that feeds death, and death that feeds life, and so on, and over and over. And I guess maybe it is eternal. Somehow. I didn't expect to find that when I started writing that paper. I could not have imagined that this would come to me, and yet it did. And now I have something to chew on. And what about you? What have you discovered on the journey through life's big mysteries? What has surprised you? What has nourished and fed you? I hope you'll share it with one another, and share it with me. And may our hearts and minds be open as we continue that journey throughout our limited lives, guided by the unlimited bounds of our imagination to find the ponderings that nourish our spirits. Blessed be. And bon appetit. Our closing hymn today is Wake Now My Senses. That's number 298.
Feel
you all please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Close with these words from John O'Donohue. May your imagination know the grace of perfect danger, to reach beyond imitation and the wheel of repetition, deep into the call of the unfinished and unsolved, until the veil of the unknown yields and something original begins to stir your senses and grow stronger in your heart.